On July 17, 1996, at 8:31 in the evening, TWA Flight 800 climbed through 13,700 feet off the coast of Long Island. 12 minutes after takeoff, the center fuel tank exploded. The Boeing 747 broke apart in midair. All 230 people aboard died instantly or in the fall into the Atlantic. Flight 800 was a scheduled service from New York's JFK Airport to Paris, with a planned stop in Rome. The aircraft, a 25-year-old 747-100, had been delayed on the ground for nearly 3 hours due to a disabled piece of baggage equipment. During that wait, the plane sat in the summer heat with its air conditioning packs running. The center fuel tank, located between the wings and the belly of the aircraft, sat nearly empty. Above it, the air conditioning system cycled hot air through a bay that shared a common surface with the tank's upper skin. The tank's temperature climbed steadily while passengers boarded and the flight crew completed pre-departure checks. The flight carried passengers from 21 countries. 16 students and 5 chaperones from a Pennsylvania high school French club were traveling together. The cockpit crew had tens of thousands of flight hours combined. There was no distress call. There was no warning. The departure was routine, the climb profile normal, the communication with air traffic control unremarkable. At 8:31 p.m., radar tracking showed the 747 at 13,700 feet in a normal climb. The cockpit voice recorder captured routine communication between the pilots and departure control. Then the recorder stopped. The flight data recorder stopped 1 frame later. Witnesses on the ground and on boats reported seeing a streak of light moving upward, followed by a massive fireball. The aircraft's forward fuselage separated and fell almost immediately. The wings and center section, still generating lift, continued forward and upward for several seconds before descending in a second debris field. The breakup happened so quickly that neither pilot had time to key a microphone. The wreckage fell across miles of ocean floor. Within hours, Coast Guard and Navy assets began search and recovery operations. Surface debris spread across a 20-square-mile area. Bodies and pieces of fuselage floated among seat cushions and luggage. Recovery divers worked in water up to 120 feet deep, in near-zero visibility, pulling up sections of aluminum skin, landing gear, and human remains. The operation would take more than 10 months. Every fragment was cataloged, photographed, and transported to a hangar for analysis. The FBI opened a criminal investigation within hours. The upward-moving lights reported by witnesses raised immediate suspicion of a missile strike. More than 700 witness statements were collected. Some described an object rising from the surface toward the plane. Others reported a fireball without any preceding object. The descriptions varied in detail, direction, and sequence. The FBI assigned more than 100 agents. The theory of a terrorist attack or accidental military shootdown dominated early news coverage and cable speculation. Investigators checked military activity logs, reviewed radar data, and interviewed personnel at nearby bases. While the FBI investigated intent, the National Transportation Safety Board began the technical investigation. Investigators reconstructed the aircraft inside a hangar in Calverton, New York. 95% of the wreckage was eventually recovered. Technicians suspended twisted metal sections on scaffolding to recreate the 747's shape. The reconstruction revealed that the center wing tank had ruptured outward with such force that it tore the aircraft in half. The tank's upper surface showed blast damage consistent with an internal overpressure event. Metal had peeled outward, not inward. The center fuel tank had held roughly 50 gallons of fuel, far below its 13,000-gallon capacity. The air conditioning packs running during the ground delay had heated the tank's vapor space to an estimated 130 degrees Fahrenheit. Jet fuel vapor becomes flammable within a specific temperature range. Testing showed that the conditions inside that tank on that evening placed the vapor mixture well within the explosive range. The nearly empty tank had created a large vapor space with ideal fuel-air ratios for combustion. But vapor alone does not ignite. There must be an ignition source. Investigators examined every electrical component recovered from the center tank area. They found no conclusive evidence of a spark or short circuit that could be definitively tied to the explosion. However, wiring from the fuel quantity indication system ran through the tank. Some of that wiring showed wear consistent with age and vibration. Lab tests demonstrated that damaged wiring could produce a spark sufficient to ignite fuel vapor under the right conditions. The NTSB identified the fuel quantity indication system wiring as the most likely ignition source, but the evidence was not definitive. The exact wire and the exact failure could not be isolated from the recovered debris. The missile theory required separate examination. Radar data from multiple military and civilian sources showed no object approaching the aircraft. Debris analysis found no evidence of high-energy fragmentation or explosive residue consistent with a warhead. Metallurgists examined metal surfaces for pitting, perforation, or chemical signatures. None were found. The FBI's witness interviews were reanalyzed with input from perception specialists. Investigators concluded that the witnesses most likely observed the aircraft already on fire, with the forward fuselage falling away and the center section climbing briefly in a fireball. Human perception of the sequence, recorded after the fact, had reversed the order of events. What appeared to rise was the crippled aircraft's temporary climb before final breakup. After a 4-year investigation and the recovery of 95% of the aircraft, the NTSB concluded that the probable cause was an explosion of the center wing fuel tank due to ignition of the flammable fuel-air mixture in the tank. The source of ignition energy could not be determined with certainty, but the most likely source was a short circuit outside the tank that allowed excessive voltage to enter the fuel quantity indication system wiring. The FBI closed its criminal investigation without filing charges. No evidence of a bomb or missile was found. The physical wreckage told a story of internal failure, not external attack. The disaster led to immediate regulatory changes. The FAA ordered the reduction of flammable vapors in fuel tanks through the installation of inerting systems on transport aircraft. Wiring inspection requirements were strengthened across the fleet. Fuel tank design standards were revised to account for heat transfer from adjacent systems. The changes applied not only to 747s, but to the entire commercial aviation industry. The cost was measured in billions. The alternative was waiting for the next tank to explode. Airlines resisted the expense until the evidence made resistance untenable. Yet the conclusion did not satisfy everyone. Witness groups, former investigators, and independent analysts continued to argue that the evidence pointed to an external event. They cited the eyewitness reports, the upward moving lights, and the absence of a confirmed ignition point inside the tank. Theories of a missile test gone wrong or a military accident covered up persisted in books, documentaries, and online forums. The NTSB's response was consistent. The physical evidence recovered from the ocean floor did not support those theories. The wreckage spoke. No one found a reason to disbelieve it. Proponents of alternative explanations pointed to government secrecy. The NTSB pointed to metallurgy and physics. The investigation was the largest and most expensive in aviation history at the time. It cost over $40 million, involved thousands of personnel, and produced tens of thousands of pages of technical analysis. The reconstructed wreckage remains in storage, a permanent archive of the failure. The families of the 230 dead received settlements. The changes to fuel tank safety became standard across global aviation. But the ignition source, the single spark or arc that turned vapor into explosion, was never located. At 8:31 p.m. on July 17, 1996, a 747 climbed through 13,700 feet off Long Island. Vapor ignited in a nearly empty tank. The blast tore the plane in half. 230 people fell into the Atlantic. The investigation reconstructed 95% of the aircraft, tested every recovered wire, and examined every witness account. The center fuel tank exploded. The source of the spark was never confirmed. The unsolved vault. Every case leaves something behind.